We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all believe. And it feels alright where the worlds collide. Manipulation stands to make us break. What's that you said coming over you? You wish it upon a star. You wish it on a star. You are, you are, you are. You fight back, it's an all-out attack. It feels like I've been taken on the world's machine. Because I want it more than anyone can dream. You look back and it's all in the past. You tell me how you live by all the things you do. Well, you can be yourself, but maybe I'm not you. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all.
Good evening, welcome along to NUFC Matters. It is the three amigos, the perfect way to kickstart your Newcastle United weekend, and it is a time for another game this weekend, home to Brighton. Looking forward to that, and I'm sure the lads are, and you are too. And just want to say thank you to YouTube. They do start rewarding channels for progressing, and look what we've got. It's not the silver one. It's made of Lego, and I didn't make it. I did have to get help doing this, but thank you to YouTube for that. Nice to get a little bit of recognition. So yeah, we are moving in the right direction. We're a long way away from 100,000, which is when you get a real plaque. You don't have to make it yourself. They send you one. But thank you anyway for everyone's support, and it's a big welcome again to Keith Patterson, who I invited on this week just because, you know, I do keep an eye on what Keith's interaction with the fans, and there's been quite a bit of interaction this week, Keith, because there's been quite a bit floating around. But I thought it was nice to get you back on, just have an update really on on what we talked about a couple of weeks ago. What's your feeling, Keith, with the way things are going, and what kind of chats have you been having away from YouTube?
There's lots happening. It's probably happening quicker than you can keep track of it. But I've had a lot of calls offline, and I've had a lot of pledges of money. I've had one pledge which the person requested to remain anonymous, but the Newcastle fan wanted to start the fund of £5,000, which I want to mention because it's a significant amount of money. But I've had, I think, between 42 or 43 pledges of money, like where people's giving bank details. Some people want to send money in every month. And when I look at it, I think it'd be quite easy, just in the Newcastle fans, just from who's sport to start getting to the 100 grand mark. But before we do that, I want to go to the games for the next 20 years. And I don't want to walk into games and get any accusations of misleading people. And I think that's why it was appropriate when you invite us on to come on tonight and calmly say to people that it might not be the right time to put any money in, and it allows the chance on this platform, which I've been loyal to explain why and what's going on behind the scenes that we maybe don't find out about. So over the last 2 weeks, probably since I spoke here, I've spent a lot of time talking to established people that's fought the Premier League on more than one occasion, and people that's helped me legally. So I've spoken to lawyers, KCs, and got a picture, and that picture is quite clear, and I'm comfortable sharing it without names, because that way I'm not going to perjure anybody. But there's an awful lot happening at the minute. I think it starts where we've just found out that the APT case and the meetings this week were cancelled. So I think that's what set the alarm bells running. I think that's why Steve Rates got in touch and said, can you come on and give your thoughts on that? So why is it being cancelled? It's a good point to start. It's been cancelled because it's really important to get this. The judge, what they did is they got an arbitration together, and one of those people on that panel was one of the highest people in the legal framework of competition law. So out of those 3 people on that arbitration panel was an established judge who is very well respected in competition law. So they were never going to run that arbitration. Remember, Man City said to them some time ago, if you continue with that amended rules on APT, we will take you to court on competition grounds. They actually stated that. The Premier League, which is becoming repeated, ignored that and more or less said to them, well, go on, crack on if you want to do it. And Man City did, and they got acknowledgement. When people say who won and did they win, and I think everyone's claimed they won, they got acknowledgement that not only was it anti-competitive, one of the big no-nos in competition law is that you abuse a dominant position. And I'll come on to that in a moment. It's something that if you get accused of doing and it's proven in the competition law, it's game over. And where that comes in to share with you fans is that if you've got a panel, what is the Premier League? Is a good starting point. It's 20 clubs. That's what the Premier League is, and it's a conundrum at the minute because we've got a position where a number are fighting against another number, and some don't know who to join. So if you talk to Mitch, George, and Steve, they would all have a strong opinion on who's with who, and they would talk to you about things that some clubs have done that don't lie right, and they'll have opinion on who are the main players and the main string pullers behind this. But whatever it is, when one person pulls the string in the direction of somebody else, it becomes an internal fracas and a war. But what you've got to remember is, let me jump now to the Leicester City case. Their rules, the Premier League's written rules, stated that Leicester City were guilty of X, Y, and Z. They left Leicester City facing a fine and facing penalty point deductions to go to the market. And when you're doing this, you can only go to so many places. There's only so many places going to protect you. And they went to Nick DeMarco and they said to him, fight our case. So what he did was he found, people would like to call it a loophole, but I would say he found a piece of law that said you cannot fine Leicester City on that basis because of rule X, Y, and Z. What I want to explain to you, Peter, is now what the Premier League will do now, they'll close that door. It's really important that we grasp that. They'll shut that door so that nobody else goes through that Leicester City door loophole, and they'll make the loopholes minimized or removed in totality. And so you will have less ways of doing it. Go back to the takeover. Newcastle had a loophole by using St. James Holdings that wasn't the club to fight the competition case which got the takeover. That door's been closed. So can you see what's happening? So many clubs will fight so many, and the Premier League have now abused the dominant position. So what they're doing is, whoever sticks their neck above the parapet, let's say Man City, the Premier League will use the clubs to abuse the dominance. I'm going to use layman's terms, is described to me as ganging up. So when they did the Newcastle rules, they got 19 clubs to go. We were told that 18 voted in favour. Man City abstained. Newcastle weren't invited. That's ganging up on Newcastle. So if they've done this to Leicester, or they've done it to Man City, or they've done it to Newcastle, they're not going to change. And it seems that whoever's pulling the strings at the Premier League, and we've all got our own opinion, we all think they mainly wear red tops, but whoever is that's got the clout, the court or the arbitration has said they will abuse their dominance. And that is, you've got to understand, see, people put things online socially and say, well, they'll run out of money. But do you realise what that means? Because how much money has Man United got? If Spurs can build a ground for $1 billion, how much have they got? How much lending power have these clubs got? And if one club is badly treated, 19 clubs against you is a lot of funding. And it's a lot of legals. So really, when you get accused of abusing dominance, in my layman's terms, in my private personal opinion, I think it means they'll go to any lengths to win. And so right now, believe it or not, and I don't know how it happens, but I guess Steve Wraith regularly said that people do watch these shows. People at clubs watch these shows. People who are, Steve says that they know Newcastle watches these shows. But already now, they are said to be preparing, or they are said to be defending the fact that fans could take them on, which comes to us. So then you think, how could you stop fans? If you went to a competition court, a judge would grant that fans were the public, and that's in the interest of the public, and so he'd probably make the case more open, like he did with our last competition action. But the Premier League will revert to their tactic, which is delay, drag on, deny, procrastinate, and every time you do this, it costs money. So in short, what I'm saying to you is, thanks a million for all your pledges and all your private messages and all your things you've got through to me. Bear in mind, I haven't advertised anything. This is just people that's found me and saying, we're in, tell us where to send it. And I'm saying stop, because I don't want to collect it. And I haven't got a team of chartered accountants and a team of financiers who can absolutely pledge that if I get £10 of Neil Mitchell, that I'm going to hold on to it as though it's my own. And I'm going to make sure he gets 10 quid of the value, because I can't be the person taking all that money off people. Last time I did it with my own money, I didn't have to answer to anybody. But today, now, it needs more money than what fans could do. So I spoke to an established KC, well-known KC, and he said, the door is massively open for fans to take on the Premier League. But if you're going to do it, get this distinction. It's not about APT, it's about PSR. So if you're going to take the Premier League on, you need to challenge the anti-competitive rules that are PSR. So them rules are there just to protect some bigger, more established, more wealthy, historically successful clubs. They're not there to stop clubs going bust. They're not there to stop another Bury. It's important we get that. It's not there at all. It's there to look after people who want to get more out of the Champions League for having the same level of performance as they say in Newcastle. So Newcastle there, another team's there, we both drop out the same and they get twice the money. That's what the PSR is for. So the PSR needs to go, and whether it goes through, it should really go by a club challenging them. That's what should really happen. And the advice I've got is only run an action which you will win. They're confident you'll win if you've got the backing of one or two clubs, and we know who those clubs are. And I haven't got a route in. If you said to me, who runs Newcastle United tomorrow, I haven't got a clue. I'm not going to be some in the know who says, I know him and I. Listen, I don't know who makes the decisions at Newcastle. I used to have an idea after the takeover who was calling the shots, but they're not there now. So now, my opinion is, I don't know. Darren Neils is apparently working out of the job. Who replaces him? What does he do when he wants to go to PIF? How does he get something passed? How does he get funded back? I haven't got a clue. Who looks after legals in Newcastle? I haven't got a clue. I knew before, and everything I did was for the seller. It was for Justin Barnes looking after Mike Ashley's affairs. And I knew who to go to, and I knew how to pick the phone up. I knew how to get them at a minute's notice, and I knew how to get a meeting, and I knew how to set up a Teams meeting and get the lawyers on. I don't know that anymore now. I don't know what Newcastle's appetite is for this. I know what Man City's is. I think you all know what Man City's appetite is. Man City have been pushed into an area where they've got 115 charges, and those people in the Premier League who were against Man City must want rid of Man City. Because think about the Premier League, is it everything that comes through, their fees are a 20th of yours. So if you were a Brentford and you vote, you pay the 20th of them fees. There's nothing clever to that. So West Ham say, yeah, let's take them 20th. Now, I bet the easiest 20th you get is Liverpool's, Arsenal's and Man United's. You know, Mitch is nodding. So that must be the way it is. But what I'm saying is, how did they get it passed? Right? How do they convince Southampton that taking on Leicester again is wise? Because that's going to be an awful lot of money to take Leicester on. So let's think about it. Our rules, Premier League, we run them, we own them. And we've took Leicester on, and they've duffed us up in court at an appeal. When you run an appeal in any system, that's supposed to be finite. An appeal is supposed to be a decision. Premier League are on about appealing against the appeal. Guess what? Whoever pulls the strings in the Premier League are saying, let's go for it. Yes, we're all in. Personally, if they said in Newcastle and Man City, are you in? I think they would say no. I think it's a waste of us putting our 20th in. But lo and behold, the Premier League seemed to have sent intent that they were going to take Leicester on again. Right. So what's going to happen? They win Leicester. Well, therefore, they've proved that the appeal process is defunct. It doesn't exist. If you appeal against an appeal and win, that means the first appeal was wrong and a waste of time and a waste of legals. But somebody behind closed doors pulling them strings, who's getting the Premier League's vote or their cash or their checkbook, is saying, nah, we take Leicester on. Let's suppose they lose against Leicester. Good God, they finished. You've just appealed against your own appeal and lost for the second time. And by the way, you've lost 3 cases now. You've just lost the APT, you've lost the first lot with Leicester and DeMarco, and guess what? You've just lost your appeal. Where do they go? So then that's when people say heads will roll or people's going to have to resign. I personally think that the Premier League is on a mission, and I think it's on a mission to stop people taking actions. These aren't my words, so if the lawyers are watching this, you can forget coming after me, because the arbitration have confirmed to me that you'll abuse your dominance whenever you get the opportunity to. And if you do that, surely then, I've been told that your arbitration voted you as anti-competitive and abusing dominance. And the key thing to me that I read, because I'm a good reader, is it was by object, which in our layman's terms in Newcastle means with intent. By object in legal terms means you actually intended, it was your intent to go in and abuse your dominance and anti-competitive. So when you made these rules up and they were unfair, it was by purpose. And where you're at now, anytime anybody comes up with a court case against the Premier League, you're going to throw money at it. And I'm saying the message to Newcastle fans tonight is, if he sees the match, just wink and just look and say, aye, Keith's not going to waste any money being outbid by the Premier League, because the biggest benefit is, remember this, I don't mind saying it tonight, I was told categorically in front of witnesses that I would be looked after. I didn't want anything back. I would be looked after if our takeover went through. That takeover went through for 310 million. A lot of people have got a lot of money. But because the seller had left the table and didn't have no seasoning, I was left with nothing. And I know if I went back, I would get a meal or get looked after. I never went anywhere. But when I went back to the club and said, I don't want anything for nothing, all I want is to buy 2 season tickets, I didn't get them. I said, I do not want anything for nothing. I just want to buy 2 season tickets. I've got the evidence, I've got it categorically, I've got it in writing, and I've got the answer in writing to say, we can't make you different to anybody else. And I said, well, I'm 100 grand light says I am different to anybody else. But what I'm trying to get here is, if I cannot buy 2 season tickets, why would I let any of you go and spend 50 quid on a campaign that the Premier League is going to try and smash with money? If this campaign were to come off, and if fans should put the money in, because people say, let's have a GoFundMe, it needs the backing of 2 clubs. One plays in blue, one's in black and white. And the reason it needs the backing of them is because they couldn't be outbid in a legal process. Do you understand? So if it was Brentford, Brentford might say, well, we're in for 2 million, but that's us out. But if it was the 2 big clubs, they would stop anybody using money to abuse the process. And if abuse of the process has been proven in arbitration, have a guarantee that will happen again and again and again. And what I'm not prepared to do is put my name down and put your monies in and volunteer an action where I might go in the Strawberry, or I might go in Shark Bar, and you might go, I lost 50 quid because of you. Nobody's ever lost a penny because of me. And I'm telling you, I've fought 3 cases that's of significance. 2 of them were 8-figure settlements and costs. And one was a public case, you know about. And I've won 3 cases. I'm of the age where I'll stick with that. 3 out of 3, thanks very much, I'm done. But I'm not going to then run an action that gives a lad from Long Benton 50 quid hard-earned money where I'm pissing it in the wind. What I'm saying to you is, if I ever turn out here any time in the future and say, I'd get behind this, I think we've got a chance, it's because I'm putting my money in, and I'll look you in the eye, or I'll stand in the pub and say, look, I actually swear to you that I think that's a good deal. And I've got 2 pieces of evidence which has been legally logged and placed in several chambers, law chambers around the country, explained the reason, because if you get at me, you'll not get at that. And those 2 pieces of evidence categorically would win the competition action. But if the action is going to be run in the same way the club was sold for 300 million, and I got out, then if this action runs again and the whole PSR is brought down, it needs to be run by the benefactors of that decision. And the biggest benefactors of a PSR collapse would be Newcastle and Man City. They'd be the biggest winners were this to happen. So if they want to find one of you 4 on the panel, or one of you fans, use not to get hold of me, and I think in reality what happens is a football club goes, well, we know him and he's a good fan and he's this and he's that. And I don't think I'll be the choice of anyone to say, we'll get him on side and we'll bring his lawyers in and we'll bring in that evidence he's got, which is categorical, we'll back him. Because I don't have contacts in the new Newcastle or the new Man City that I trust or that I know well enough to talk to. But equally, I'm not going on the back of fans and saying, right, I want you to give us X, Y, and Z. I don't want you to give us anything. And with respect, I would say, don't offer us anything. Don't pledge anything, because for me, I think you're blowing it in the wind, and I think the Premier League will out-trump you to the point where you got one of the big two to back you. When that happens, if one of the big two backens, if I get a call of Man City and they say, announce that you want to run a fund, bear in mind, if I ever put an announcement out in general public to say there's a fund starting and the fans are going to fight the establishment, you know that somebody's backing it. And that way, I think by saying that, I'm saying to you people, don't throw your money away. And you know, you might think it's negative, but other people, I spoke to a lawyer this afternoon, and he says, I think it's positive. He says, the reason it's positive, Keith, is because the Premier League are rattled. The whole, and when the Premier League's rattled, who is it? Because we part of the Premier, it's the part of the Premier League that's trying to keep it abuse and dominance and working with intent and acting anti-competitive. That's the people who's rattled, and they're prepared to go to any extent to cling on to what they've got. And if you said what are they clinging on to, I would say privilege and advantage. Advantages in terms of reward and money they get back. But if you look up when I leave the show, if you look up and say what is anti-competitive behaviour, two of the first things you'll come up there when I was making notes tonight is you'll see that abuse of dominance is one of the first ones listed, and the fact that if you get accused of abuse and dominance and you've got competition threats over you, it's as blatant as somebody trying to get a job in a nursery with a paedophilia record. It's like don't let him anywhere near a competition case because he's already abused dominance. And if they went into a proper law court, that will come up again and again and again. What you can't do, George will probably pick this, is you cannot wipe your record for the purpose of a court case. It's like a fingerprint, and they abuse dominance. So really what it is if you could ever get them into a court, you know yourself, if somebody's, when a man walks into a police station, he goes, no comment, no comment, no comment. He's saying, I don't want you to take us to court. I don't want to give you anything that can incriminate us. And when you go into a competition court, the Premier League will do anything they can to avoid going into a court.
I think the legal term, Keith, is they would have a propensity. I think that's the word.
but if you look at this court case now, I think that you're not supposed to collude and talk to each other.
Yeah,
you know, collusion's it's something that's frowned upon in competition law. To the point where it says you can't even think about doing it, let alone do it. But how do you then send a letter in the last 12 months or the last 3 years on behalf of 10 clubs? How does that work? Oh, well, I just guessed that they would back us, and I just guessed that they all support this letter. It's absolutely ludicrous to think they could win a competition case, but don't ever be under any misbelief that they won't fight. They'll go kicking and screaming to avoid being dragged in, and they will do whatever they can to avoid that. And to the point where me, my age, my lifestyle, me everything, I've got a much better life than chewing on with them, because some of the people that work for these people just do a job, you know what I mean? And they just get well paid. Some lawyers get paid to delay things. I don't mind saying, if you go through my tweets, my history, and see which lawyer I was up against during the takeover, the clue I'll give you, they both fly in the sky. But they just absolutely took my life for 14 months. I didn't earn, I didn't go to work. I just did this for 14 months. And I'd never seen the kind of procrastination that I saw during that. It was eye-opening, but I was just a daft fan who could see something that the club couldn't see. And I was lucky. I went to the club and I persuaded them to let me go into a meeting with them. And then I persuaded them after that meeting to let me go and meet their lawyers and go in with my mate. And then after that, I persuaded them and their lawyers to sit and listen to my barrister talk about competition law, which none of them specialised in, but they all understood. And our pitch was, you'll lose this case in arbitration. One thing has come up this week, which is critical as well, is some well-known people who you all know in the legal world are saying that the arbitration isn't going the way the Premier League intended, because they're starting to get results out of arbitration now. Who'd have thought an arbitration panel would have judged that they were abusing dominance and would be anti-competitive and would be doing it with intent? But what's happening now is, when you go and pick your 3 people out, me and George is in the war, and I say, right, George, I've got my pick, and you've got yours. And say, right, before we put them in, I say number 3 should be him, because he does competition law, and this is about competition. And George goes, well, I'm not sure about that. I go, right, Mr. George, Premier League, if that's the case, I'm going to change my pick to that competition guy. And I'm going to tell him that you didn't even want him on there because you wanted to avoid the competition. Are you sure you don't want him in? Okay, we'll have him in. Right, I'll have my original pick, you have yours. And what happens is, when you put a competition guy on that panel, you put the cat among the pigeons. And that guy's not going to become an established lawyer in the ages of retirement. And then he's a retired judge. He's got the top of his game. He's not going to the top of his game and then going to tell lies. So all you people who put on Twitter, be brown envelopes, load of shite. No, there's no brown envelopes going to change a retired judge to lose his dignity, his pride, and his a retired judge in competition law will have 10 million in the bank, and he doesn't want $1 million in a brown envelope. So what I'm saying here is, now is the rules are changing, and arbitration isn't the answer because it doesn't have the penalties, but it's causing them more grief. But always remember this: the only day you'll see a real flat Premier League playing field where Newcastle could invest is when you get rid of the PSR and its current guys. And the only way that happens, the only way it'll happen quickly, is if you go into a law court. And if it goes into law court, you'd have to have a club of the size of Newcastle or Man City doing it through a body, whether it's their fans or whether it's some other company. And right now, it won't be us because the numbers have gone up too big. So when I said to you, we were told we could put our action for 200,000, and we had to cover it for $500,000 back in the takeover. That's the risk we're at. Now, in the words of a well-known KC, it's now millions, because they'll make it millions. That's all I've got to say, really. I hope I haven't gone on too long, and I apologise. No. I apologise if it comes over like a rant, and I apologise to you 3 on the panel, because I don't have the right to just come up once in a blue moon and gobshite on. But what I'm saying is, I'm trying to give you a heads up, and I'm trying to give you like a bit of a warning that any fan that puts money in.
You've earned the right, man. You've earned the right. Yeah, you have. You've earned the right.
100%, and that's why we asked you on. It's always good to get your opinion. We're on every week talking about these things, but I think, and we've seen it in the chat, people are very appreciative of, as we've said, giving it to us in layman's terms. I make no bones about it. A lot of this I've got no idea, and I don't even pretend to have an idea about it, and that's why I often refer people to Keith on social media if they've got any questions. And it's great to have you on again, Keith, and I'm sure we'll see you plenty more as this rumbles on. I'm not going to go for a break into one of our usual things yet. I'm going to go around the panel now. So Mitch, starting with you, mate. You've listened intently there to Keith, and nodded away, I guess, at a lot of the stuff. So give us your views on what you've heard Keith say.
Before I dive in, if you don't mind, just a couple of minutes, Steve. I'd like to dedicate this evening to a gentleman called Dave Cartman, who was once resident here in Dubai for a long time. A good friend of mine and Stu's. Dave passed away very unexpectedly at the start of the week in the Philippines. he leaves behind his lovely wife Lizelle, who has poured in our time, me and Stu, a number of pints in Goodfellas. Dave loved the pints so much he married her. And he also, unfortunately, leaves behind a lovely young boy called Harrison. We were made aware of this earlier this week. Dave, by his own admission, was a social hand grenade at times, but he was our social hand grenade. And like a younger brother, he was the butt of many jokes and the punchline to many stories and many besides. He will be missed. He's touched so many people. There's a UAE WhatsApp group that me and Stu are on, which is full of like-minded football fans of all different persuasions, from Liverpool, Everton, Man City to Gillingham and beyond. They have organised a GoFundMe to raise a little bit of cash for Lizelle and Harrison going forward. If anybody knows Dave, give us a shout on Twitter and I'll put you in touch with that if you haven't already seen it. But yes to you, Dave, mate. If you remember me talking about a guy getting sacked in the Caribbean for being too laid back, aye, that was Dave. Dave, you'd be missed, mate. He'll also not have to ask me anymore, who was that gadget that turned the water into wine in the Bible? Yes, Dave, that would be Jesus. And he's probably had a little word with you about it. Yes to you, Dave. And I'll leave it at that. Thanks, everyone.
Well said, mate. Well said.
With regards to what's going on, it comes back to basics for me. It's quite clear. In all of the cases that they're now scrambling with and they've lost and they're losing appeals, the rules are in part unlawful and generally poorly applied, not fairly applied across the board. There seems to be many exceptions for certain people at certain times, and sometimes it's almost make it up as you go along. It's quite clear with a bunch of amendments, colloquially known as the Newcastle amendments, that there has been targeted action and ganging up, as Keith very succinctly puts it, and for a long time too. We've known about it for a long time. We've complained about it for a long time, and we were called all sorts for a period of time. And now everybody's switching on to what's going on. It's always been happening in it's been hidden in plain sight in many ways. But finally, it's time that things are called out. The fact that they acted like it could have called a meeting and make everything better in one fell swoop, and all those emergency meetings have suddenly been cancelled because somebody's gone, don't think we can. The Premier League right now are vulnerable, and they're vulnerable on many fronts. If people don't think that our owners and Man City's owners are not in some sort of communication at the moment, I think you're very naive. I do think our owners are still taking a slightly different tact, but I think maybe what will give you a little bit of an insight is, again, the Gulf mindset. What you're seeing from Man City is the Gulf mindset when you're openly attacked. You push back. Right, had enough of this. Now I'm tooling up and I'm coming for you. That's very much the mindset here. If you're openly attacked, be prepared to be attacked back. I still think our owners are in a mode of, to quote a phrase, you catch more flies with a drop of honey than you do with a jar full of vinegar. And I think there'll be just conversations going on with the Premier League along the lines of, you really don't need any more legal actions, do you? Because as I understand it, and speaking to a lawyer out here about it who's well versed, the unlawful rules do not need to be adhered to anymore. Everything else does. So effectively, when you strip out those unlawful ones, if you look at the APT one, the onus is still on the club to show that this is fair market value. Well, now we've got sort of comparable things popping up all over the place. All of a sudden, the sponsorship of Atletico Madrid's stadium, for example. Do I think that's accidental and the timing of that's accidental? Absolutely not. And I think there'll come a point where we will play nice to a point, and then when we are openly attacked, because eventually that will happen, it's the only way to go, then you'll see what kind of teeth we may or may not have. But for now, I think they'll want to do it in a dignified way. As Keith rightly points out, understanding who has the final call on things at the moment is difficult. It's quite clear that the chairman, His Excellency Jesse Aldermayan, is part of that process. The head of European investments for PIF, Jacobo Solis, is absolutely part of that process. And he seems to be the biggest influence on certain decisions right now. How that works with Darren Neal's position at the moment, can't even begin to say. I'm quite sure Darren will want to be doing the very best for Newcastle United and leaving something far better intact for whoever eventually comes in to replace him. And again, don't underestimate this. Whereas the timing's a little bit shit, at the same time, I always see opportunities instead of just looking for threats everywhere. And I think there are, as Keith rightly says, a number of opportunities for a number of people to have a go if they wish. But the challenge with the Premier League is where they're being bankrolled from, who are protecting them, and who have the interests in protecting them, and how deep are their pockets, and how long can they drag things out. You're seeing a very similar thing in US politics at the minute, where Donald Trump, delays, obfuscates, puts off as long as he possibly can to drag things out and appeals here and objects there. And it's never with an intent to actually find a solution. It's always with an intent just to keep everything dragging on. That's very much the Premier League's MO at the moment, and that's very clear. However, as Keith rightly says, I don't think they've ever been as vulnerable as they are right now. The other challenge we have is the overarching influence of UEFA. They have a PSR which they want people to adhere to. It's absolutely very different to that of the Premier League. And the only sanction they seem to give is financial, which is why Chelsea are happy to blow the roof off it every damn season, because they feel like they can absorb the fine. I think it's quite clear it's a mess. And the legal minds out here seem to be of the opinion now's the time to make hay while the sun shines, because if anybody comes at it retrospectively, the immediate answer you've got is, well, some of the rules were lawful and we didn't really know what we were following at that moment in time. So we did our best. I don't know if we'll be that blatant. I would love to be. I would really love to be. I'd love to just drive a coach and horses through it and say, right, okay, then come on. While they're fighting, if nobody wants to fight on multiple fronts. And that's what I would be doing. I care only about Newcastle United at the end of the day in all of this. Sod anybody else and how it works out for them. We've been targeted very deliberately with amendments and rules to hold us back, and protectionism for the tops, the so-called big six or five with spurs on their shirt tails. And so for me, I'm a different mindset. That would trigger me. I would be going for it. But I can understand why maybe we're not quite just yet. But you'd be very naive if you didn't think that people behind the scenes were gearing up for any possible action.
Okay, Steve, thoughts on this? Apologies to some people who don't enjoy this kind of talk, but we always feel almost like a responsibility because of where we were during the takeover. We almost feel like a responsibility to try and just give like a balanced view and an honest view from people who know what they're talking about. So if this isn't your thing, we'll be delving back into the other side of NUFC matters in the next, in about 15 minutes time. But yeah, Steve, give us your opinion, please.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I'm hearing from Keith lends me to follow even further down the path that I was going on over the last few weeks, which was that it's becoming plainly obvious that the entire structure of the EPL is faulty. It's broken. The structure is anti-competitive. the voting structure, the way that the rules are put in place, the fact that you have 20 clubs who are shareholders, which then dictate to the board which direction the board has to go. All of that is what needs sorted, I think. And as he said, when you appeal against your own lost appeal, then you know that your board is really, really struggling. So, in my opinion, the structure just simply is no longer fit for purpose. However, what I can't see is the introduction of a football regulator having any power whatsoever to put that structure back in place that is workable. Because the way that the football regulator is being mooted in the law is it's a regulator with half its teeth removed before it even gets put in place. As for the Newcastle owners, I was listening to what Mitch said, and I put it into my own little colloquial way. I said I see the Newcastle owners more as like the new kid on the block, the new kid that comes into your class after you've all been established with your mates for a while. And he sits at the back and gradually starts to make friends with people, builds himself up into that friendship group, looks around the class and decides who he thinks he'd be able to hang around with, that he'd appreciate, and who he wouldn't, makes his own mind up, and then pushes quietly to get into your school football team. And then once he managed to get that opportunity, uses his own talents to actually show everybody, you know what, this person's worthy, this person's worthy of listening to, this person's worthy of hanging around with. And I think that's the way that in that sort of term, the way that PIF have been, they've been very, very quiet in the background. They've just watched, they've had a watching brief. I think they haven't come anywhere near showing their teeth yet. And I think it's just the way that they are. They're the new kids on the block. They're the new ones in the Premier League, if you like, and they're finding their feet. But I think once they do find their feet, as we've seen with various other sports, be it boxing or be it golf or now the tennis, once they go for something, they will go for it big style. And I think with the help of Man City, because Man City are doing all the donkey work at the moment, because it fits into Man City's modus operandi, let's face it, with the 115 charges hanging over them. But I think PIF will be learning an awful lot. And after all, what we also got to remember is that, you know, we've had a lot of upheaval at Newcastle United over the last few months, whether it's the moving on now in the not too distant future of Darren due to illness, whether it's Mierad and Amanda moving on. We had Al Sarah, who moved on a couple of years earlier than that, and who was represented in the boardroom. We've now got a couple of new people coming into the board, and we'll have other new people starting very, very soon. A new chief executive for one. So I think that with all of that going on, I think it's a strange time for the back room at Newcastle United, and the only shining light is the fact that at the moment Eddie Howe didn't even make the top 10. God almighty, what the hell's going on there? I'm sure we'll pick up on that in the next few minutes, Steve. But yeah, I mean that's the way I'm looking at it. I think it's just very much golden brief at the moment, and thank God we've got fans like Keith. Thank God we've got educated people like Keith, and thank God for inviting him on tonight, Steve, because it means we don't have to listen to this tomorrow in the pub.
George, last but by no means least, George, you forgive us for putting the lads on first. I'm sure you know why, because obviously it is the three Amigos. You've become very much a part of it, but it's nice for you to listen to the lads, I guess, and then give an opinion towards the end.
Well, and because Keith knows with the background, 30 years as a magistrate sitting on a bench, sitting at the Crown Court with judges, and as my profession as a naval architect, sitting on arbitration cases to do with Scotland ships and shipyards trying to double their bill and all that sort of thing. It's not too far removed from what Keith's talking about. Keith talking about collusion. I don't think people out there will realise that if collusion is proved, it could take it out of the civil realm and put it into the criminal realm, where the punishments are, up to prison. I mean, that's what they're playing with. But because they're the bullies, they've got the big boys with the big stick to think they can get away with it all. I don't think they've even thought about that, because if it's proved, it could be more than serious, So I'm fascinated by that. I'm fascinated by the people who may be the arbitrators. If I mention a judge's name, you probably know Judge Leveson. The Leveson report. Remember the Leveson report? Well, I know him as Brian. he invited
report.
me. Yes, he invited me to the Criminal Justice Committee in the Home Office after I met him on a course at Cambridge University. But it also met him when he's on his way up, when he was the chairman of a marine arbitration. And what's interesting about that one was it's called the Yellow Submarine Arbitration, because it was about a ship that was scuttled at sea, and they thought it got away with it, but somebody several miles away had binoculars on the ship and watched it sinking bodily straight down. Didn't go tip like that, like a sinking ship usually does when you see it on the pictures. It just went down like that, which meant somebody went down and opened all the sea cocks. So it got appealed and it went to the House of Lords, and the appeal was eventually lost in the House of Lords, and it changed law all over the world, because you've got several ways in which you win a case, and there's another one, and that's the logic reason. And it's been used in murder trials and all sorts, but it came from a marine case, without possibilities. It just was. It's just interesting how all this comes out, and why I would like to hear Keith talking about it. The only other question I was going to ask Keith, and I forgot to do it, was: has anybody said anything to you about Noel Gallagher, Keith, and what he's been? Right. Okay.
So they've said people suggested Noel Gallagher and Sam Fender, and the nearest I've ever been to Sam Fender, I was stood a yard off him and Liam Kenny the night of the takeover. It was in the strawberry, and Liam Kenny says, "Do you know who that kid is next to you?" And I says, "No, I haven't got a clue." And he says, "Do you know who it is?" I goes, "Nah, who is it?" It's Sam Fender. I says, "Who's he?" And so that was back then. I subsequently went and watched him at St James's, and obviously now admire his music and everything he stands for. But then the next thing is his pal got on the bar in the strawberry in that black and white outfit and started playing his saxophone. And we were stood celebrating the takeover with Sam Fender. He was stood. He was right stood next to us. I was nearly on his feet. But they mention these people, but at the same time, think about it. If I was Noel Gallagher and I was worth, say, 40 million, why would I want to put a fund up so that a wealth fund that's worth 600 billion benefits? I would say, well, nah, just let Newcastle and Man City do it. And that's what I was saying to you. They're the benefactors. They're the big winners here. So why should a bloke who's paying £420 a month for his car loan, living in Wide Open, spend 200 quid on this case when he's not? But they could argue I'm the benefactor because I'll see a flat playing field and I see his win things. But I think when you've got unlimited funds, as certainly Newcastle have and Man City have for the purpose of this, I think it's right to forget about, because at the time in the takeover they're telling me to go to Brian Johnson, Alan Shearer, all the people who were multi-millionaires, and get them on your side. So I think that's what my message is tonight. It doesn't need a celebrity. It needs a football club. There's two can do it. I think that's my message. And my message is, until they do put their money to it, don't put yours in.
Yeah.
So you're scribbling down there, Keith, because I know there was a couple of questions, and I know you're quite on the ball with that. So anything you want to answer that stood out?
There's a lad called Jimmy Watt has asked a question, and there's a lad called Craig Lee. So Craig Lee's question was he was asking, can for example, I think what he said is, could a Man City take on a Man United and a Liverpool? And the answer is, I believe that the Premier League rules, if you're going to take an action for cartel or anti-competitive behaviour against another organisation, undeniably rope the Premier League into it, because the acting within their activity in the Premier League. So I don't think you could just single out somebody. And by the same token, George will probably tell you, you can't overly deny somebody being able to take an action if they're doing something illegal. But the Premier League rules trump something. It sort of says, while you win this, you can't take us to court. You've got to go through arbitration. Sign there. So that's the first route. And what I'm saying is, there'll be debate over who you could and couldn't take, but I think that clubs are protected under the Premier League, and I think their rules would mean that you go through the arbitration route first. Jimmy Watt comes up with a great story, a great point. He says, you know, these shareholders, so you've got clubs, let's just say Everton, Arsenal and Brighton, the biggest offenders, because they've been getting interest-free loans. He asks, can that just be written off? And my opinion to that is, I don't see how it can be, because it's anti-competitive, and it's anti-competitive with intent. So they say that what the panel have decided. Bear in mind, this company's guy, he's deciding that the intent means they deliberately meant to be anti-competitive. That's by object. So if you've deliberately tried to trade illegally, how then can you write it off? Because surely write it off is the second offence of illegality. I think that somewhere on the line they're going to have to get everyone to agree how that backlog of free advantage and interest-free loans is dealt with. And that's where I think it's that very reason why this week's meeting was cancelled, and why Man City said, if you go and tweak them rules this week, we take you back to court, mind, because it's anti-competitive. I think that's what Man City is. Neil's touched on that, of the mentality of the Gulf states is that I think they take a lot of warming up. I think they take a lot of vexing and making angry. And I think if you do something illegal to a Gulf state, you might get away with it in a sense, to the point when they break, they broke. And then when they go, they'll savage you. They will fight till the death. That's what I think. And I think Man City's been broken now with the 115 charges. I don't think Man City's got any option but to keep fighting.
That would be in a number of legal scenarios that you see out here. Behind it, every sort of banged up in Dubai story. If you get to hear the real story, you look at how far the police have bent over backwards to make something just go away and not have to deal with it. And then you find that, you know, the couple banged up for having sex on a beach had been told 5 times, and then the woman started hitting the police officer with a flip-flop, and you're like, well, and that's in every kind of scenario. In a business scenario, I've sat with Gulf nationals talking about money opening practices, funding practices, and it can be charming and so intimidating all at the same time. And you're right, I think they take a lot of warming up, but when they snap, they snap, and when they bite hard.
I think Man City. Right. I think Man City snapped, and I think that if you tell, you've got to look at that. Let's go back. What is the Premier League? It's 19 clubs telling Man City that what you've done should relegate you. So if the Premier League go with that law fund, they're really going on behalf of 19 clubs, even though some of them must be pushing now. And this is what I think. I think there's maybe, where there was always 15 voters for something, I think it's more getting nearer 10 and 10 now. I think, you know, I think there'd be 12-8 in favor, but I think the 14 majority, and you've got to remember, that can still be anti-competitive. That doesn't make the Premier League right. And with some people send me abuse, like Man United supporters will say it was online on Twitter. Oh, how can it be anti-competitive? Because it's a vote. That's the most hideous, embarrassing, uneducated comment to make, because the courts, 3 judges have said no, despite your 14-6 majority rules, it's anti-competitive and it's illegal. So right now, I personally think Man City don't have any other choice but to fight like hell or they're getting relegated. And I pray that Man City get through this because I think a lot of the behaviour they've done was because they were against an illegal cartel and there was no chat. The only way they could beat them was to beat them. And they might be worked off card a few times, but you can see why, because if Man City hadn't done that, they'd have had to play by the rules. If you want to see something anti-competitive where people collude for the financial gain, look at the ESL, the whole ESL. Yeah. And one of the things you're not allowed to do in competition law is remove disadvantage and remove advantage. What they did was on the ESL, they said nobody will get relegated. Nobody get relegated is an American thing. It's anti-competitive. When you play with money, you actually, because the whole process of getting relegated, coming up, going down, is you get more money when you get up. So that keeps it competitive. And everyone's trying to get up. When you say from now on nobody can come down, that's anti-competitive. Yeah. Because where's the incentive? Because you'll all just get, all your cows will get fatter. So yeah. Sorry.
I was going to say, I think what we're showing is that when the Premier League was set up back in '92, it was set up to protect, the rules were set up to protect the sporting integrity of the league. But where we are now, that's why when they said sign on this dotted line, that was the intention. It was to protect the sporting integrity. But what we have now is to protect the financial position of certain people within that league. And you look back in '92, and probably the highest transfer was what, £4 or £5 million. Now you're talking about clubs with a turnover of £800-900 million, selling and buying players for 120-130 million pounds. So the whole gambit, the whole pitch changed, the whole groundswell changed, but the rules that they've got in place they were fine when it was just to protect the sport integrity of what was supposed to be a fair league, because it was a couple of £1 million. Now it's a huge business and there's so much hanging on it that it's obvious that companies or clubs, as we'll call them, are going to act in the way that they do, because it's self-interest, it's self-protection, and that in itself, when they work together, is anti-competitive, and that's where the whole thing's fallen down. I think the whole sporting integrity of the game is going to be ruined, and because they've ruined it themselves, they've destroyed the whole aspect of sporting integrity for greed, for money.
You know, when you're talking there, I'm just thinking, could you imagine a court case on competition law with the Premier League? So the KC says, I'd like to call Mr. Masters to the bench. Tell us, Mr. Masters, who interviewed you?
Yes.
Yeah. It's a good point. Just give us just tell us who interviewed you. And did the people who interviewed you put to the vote, because you're big on this 14-6 vote, did they put it to a majority vote that you got the job? And if they did, can you show us the evidence? And if they didn't, the whole thing becomes anti-competitive to start with, where certain competitors can choose the man who runs it. And I'm not having a picker here. I'm just saying that I've seen stuff that suggests who did the interviews. I've seen information gathered from credible sources of which clubs did the interviews. If that's the case, like if it was Brentford, Southampton, Leicester, and Crystal Palace, I apologise, but I know it wasn't.
Okay, we are halfway through the show. We've got a lot to cram in the last hour, so we are going to draw an end to that. No, don't apologise, Keith. That's why we had you on. We're going to have a quick ad break, and then we're going to have the author of this book on, Rise of the Magpies. I can see her in the green room, and I don't want to keep her waiting. So we're going to have Abby Smith on. We'll talk a little bit about that book. We've also got all the usual favourites in the second half of the show, but I will have to cram them in. But dogs, exactly. Here's the ads. A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can contact them at their website, mrvickies.co.uk, email info@mrvickies.co.uk, or telephone 01768 210 102. A big thanks to our NUFC Matters fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. They are the Travel and Tourism Award winners 2024. 2-crew driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels and no interchanges. All excursions included. Contact them at their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com, email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com, or telephone 01670 632 460, or mobile 0791 666 4174. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the technical side of things. And don't forget, we are also a podcast, and you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, or other podcast providers. If you want to help the channel, you can hit the like button, which is the little thumb under each video. You can click the share button to share it to other social media, or subscribe to the channel. Hit the subscribe button, and it is for free. We still do 7 shows a week. Hit the join button, and you can join the channel for $1.99 a month to help support us. We do promote events on this channel. Derek Wright is holding his official book launch at the Tyneside Irish Centre, 15th of November. Tickets are £22, and that does include a signed book. Tickets are from newcastlelegends.com. Gold Star Promotions and Gateshead Leisure Centre are bringing Lennox Lewis to the area as part of his UK tour. You can get tickets by calling 0191 250 5066. Tickets start at £39. The Long Sands are back in aid of Dementia Matters and being supported by Lilac Lane and the Chris Norris Band. Saturday, January the 4th, 2025. Tickets £15 from newcastlelegends.com or from the Clooney box office. Peter Beardsley will be at the Tyneside Irish Centre on the 10th of January, 2025. Tickets are available from newcastlelegends.com or from Woucher. An Evening with the Entertainers takes place at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House, the 24th of January 2025. You can buy tickets for that now from the box office 0844 249 1000 or from the website tynetheatreandoperahouse.uk. And the Magpie Lounge is now open at Gateshead Leisure Centre. 7 tokens for £99. Call 0191 250 5066 to book your tickets today. And the first of those tokens will be the 31st of January, an evening with Lee Clark. If you just want to buy tickets separately, call 0191 250 5066. And the book everyone's talking about, The Entertainers, 1992 to 1997, Kevin Keegan's Legacy, is on sale now. The book will be posted out on the 1st of December, written by Will Scott. Over 30 contributors to this book. newcastlelegends.com or Amazon to buy it today. Okay, welcome back to the Three Amigos, and a big welcome to Abby Smith, who is the author of this book, Rise of the Magpies. Abby, and thank you very much. I got it through the post today from Pitch Publishing. Just to give you the little byline, Rise of the Magpies charts the ascent of Newcastle United over the past 2 decades, paying particular attention to the 22-23 season, which saw Toon fans celebrate a Champions League placement for the first time since 2003. Abby, welcome to the show. Fantastic.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. Can I just give a shout out to my father-in-law, Grampy, who never misses your show. So hi, Grampy, if you're watching. And I've got a lot to thank him for the book as well, because he was a huge inspiration and my fount of all knowledge as well with it. So thank you very much. Hi, Grampy.
Is this your first book?
No, this is my 19th book.
Well done.
But thank you. I do. This is my first personal important book to the whole family. It's a real team effort. So I ghostwrite other books. So I write for celebrities, for sports people, but this is the first, second, third book that I've actually got, the Abby Smith bit to it. So it's from the heart. It's a family team effort.
It's a great read, and the photographs show how personal it is to you. And I did want you to say what you were, but I'm gonna tell everybody you are actually a Sunday Times #1 best-selling author, and that is that is
how
quite
exciting!
That is
How exciting!
That is quite an achievement. But the Newcastle book, quite clearly, when you read it, comes across as a probably one of the books you've enjoyed writing the most. And it does take us on a wonderful journey. And without giving too much away, because we want people to buy the book. What are the main selling points of the book, would you say?
Thanks, Steve. So I wrote the book. It's primarily, I would say, through my son's eyes, who has become a Newcastle fan over the years, and that's filtered down from my husband, who's a Newcastle fan, and my father-in-law, who's a Newcastle fan. So we sort of got 3 generations crossing over. I'm sorry, my dog wants to join in this chat as well. I hope that's okay.
Does it look like Steve Hasty?
More than he realises.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. Look, she probably just wants to get on the chair. Let's be honest. That's the whole reason she's come towards me. So that's the important thing to me, that football can be that sort of combining of, generations on a team that is so important and means so much to our family. And it was an honour for me to be able to write this book and to tell my son, Mum's written this for you, for your future, so you can chart the rise of the team through his eyes, really.
And you had
hopefully that's what comes across.
It comes across as well. Yeah, it does come across. And a bit of behind the scenes access at the Cathedral on the Hill, as we knew it.
Yes, we had the best time there with 2 of the tour guides who'd been working there for 25 years, Mary and Nick. I mean, you could ask them anything and they would have an answer. It was amazing. So we got a lot of input from them. We spoke to loads. It's a fan's book as well. I should very much point this out. I'm not an authority figure on Newcastle United. I spoke to lots of people to help me with this book, to get insights from fans all over the world for it, because ultimately that's what it's about. Every time we go to Newcastle, it feels like we've come home. We are one of a crowd of people, and so it was important to get everyone's voices for this book, so they helped me greatly with it.
And I guess this book focuses on the man probably who we all often thank on this show, Eddie Howe, for everything that he's done.
I had a really good conversation for this book with Simon Francis, who was the Bournemouth captain and obviously worked with Eddie, and we had a great chat, and he gave me a real insight into Eddie and how he worked in Bournemouth. I mean, it's something that I guess we all know what a personable guy he is anyway, that comes across. But that was really interesting as well, to get, his insights and what he did for the players when he was at Bournemouth. So, I think my sons see Eddie as a coach that they would appeal to them on a grassroots level. He's all about respect and being part of a team. So I think that's how they appreciate him, rather than some managers they see on TV just effing and blinding and shouting the odds at players. They see Eddie as someone that they would see on a Saturday morning, and that means a lot.
You also focus in the book on why the fans have such an effect on every team that they meet. And I love the fact that you also cover the fact that, how we make people welcome into the fan base.
So I think that's why, it's very much written for Henry, who's 11 years old, and he comes up to Newcastle and we go into the Strawberry, say, before a match, and he talks to everyone, and everyone wants to spend time with him and will give him the time of day and will answer his questions. And where else do you get that? We were blown away by it. And then he'll be playing pool, down the bottom, and they'll all be just like asking him about his favourite players. And that to me is potentially what sometimes is lost with football, but so evident when you go to Newcastle.
Yeah, and there's lots of accounts from fans of all ages and on the decisions that, of course, shape the team. I genuinely think this is like a breath of fresh air as far as Newcastle United fans are concerned. It's quite a positive thing because we often cover it on here. We do get a lot of negativity ourselves for being YouTubers. We see it for other people as well. But I think what you've done in this book is you've infused the positivity amongst the fan base, Abby, which is great.
Thanks, Steve. I do hope so. It is a celebration after all. I mean, it's a celebration, I guess, focused on that sort of time for the club, but in actual fact, a celebration in the fact of where you were, where you are now, and where you could be, and I think that's really important. But yeah, completely positive. But I couldn't have done it without all the help from the fans that very kindly gave me their input.
Yeah, it's a hardcover book, 256 pages. The publisher is Pitch Publishing, and the book comes out on the 21st of October. The retail price will be £18.99, and I presume that you can get this book from all good bookshops, some bad bookshops, and Amazon and other places, Abby.
Yes, that's right. You can, and we will be coming up to watch the Chelsea match, the Carabao Cup, in a couple of weeks' time. So no doubt my son and I will just be sort of hanging around, just waving it around. So yes, you can accost us on the street if you see us at St James's Park.
The good thing is, Steve, now we know who that little kid is who keeps hogging the pool table in the stroll.
Keeps winning everybody. Yeah, keeps winning everybody.
He does play when it stays on, actually. So yeah.
That's what you do. Absolute pleasure to have you on. Best of luck with the book.
Thank you.
Rise of the Magpies, Magpie Smith, Newcastle United's Renaissance. It's another one to stick in the Christmas list along with the Entertainers book that Will Scott's done that we publicise. Thank you so much, and we've managed to get you on and get you off in time, Abby, as well. So big thanks to everyone.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Cheers, Take care. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. See you soon.
Cheers.
Great to have Abby on, and best of luck with the book. Fantastic that, and it is a good read, lads. I managed to cram that in over the last 2 days, so fantastic read. Make sure you get a copy for Christmas.
Just hit on something that we see out here. We've got for the match tomorrow, we've got 180 booked at the bar tomorrow.
Yeah,
and not all of them are born and bred Geordies. A lot of them are adopted Geordies, and not just British adopted Geordies. They're talking about people from the Philippines, from Poland, from Ukraine, from Argentina, from Bolivia, and I can go on and on and on. And what's the connection? Those daft sods in the black and white shirts that we all love to support. And nobody gives a monkey's where you're from. It's about, are you one of us?
Exactly. Steve Middlemiss, no, you can't get it from Sven Books. Okay, moving on swiftly to...
a story about that? No.
I bet you have. But we won't have time to cover that. Tweet of the week, if you're easily offended, it's probably best you go and make a brew. And as always, as I say, some of these are near the bone, but I have edited quite a few, chucked a few in the bin. Big thanks, as always, to the regular crew. Ray Burnell sent quite a few this week. Jimmy Wilson, Stephen Kennedy, the usual suspects. And I was a big fan of Star Trek, always wondered what the captain's log looked like. Well, there we go. And just to let you know, the village flatter who's set to retire has changed his mind. In a statement, he says he'll stick it out for another year, lads. So, I saw you in my dream last night. This was a text to Stu Penman. Was I drinking beer? No, it wasn't me. And talking to Stu Penman, he is over for the weekend. So if you do see any of this panel, you may see them in a position like this. We do like a saying on this channel, and here we are. This year, thousands of men will die from stubbornness. No, we won't. Somebody scrolled underneath in pen. And some rather unfortunate branding again. Take it. 4 fingers. This brand is Ali's Halloween candy. It's threatening me with a good time, says this hilarious poster. Even snowmen are inappropriate on this program. Chris Hall says, tweet of the week, Asda's going a bit X-rated. The snowman and the snow dog cream pies. Yes. Maybe they should change that. And this is the last thing you want to see when your parachute fails. Ground coming. And a big thanks to one of my mates on Facebook who was visiting a church and he saw this sign. There's a holy mess in the crypt. So Heaven knows what has been going on in there. And Des, thank you for this one. He says, one for the Amigos. John's weather forecasting stone. Stone is wet means rain. Stone is dry means it's not raining. Shadow on ground means it's sunny. White on top, snowing. Can't see stone, foggy. Swinging stone, windy. Stone jumping up and down. Earthquake. Stone gone, tornado.
Brilliant.
It is good. This great to see this at the cash machine. There's Johnny just above it.
Fantastic.
And another unfortunate name for a shop. Come and eat, food
Oh,
point.
dear me.
Yes. And an unfortunate name for a book. Who will help jack off the horse? Cheers, Gary. And this bowling alley advert as well. It's amazing what you can do with 2 fingers and a thumb.
Oh my God.
I was robbed by 6 dwarfs today, lads. Not happy. And this aeroplane never lands, apparently.
Very clever.
Warning, low-flying owls. And Lost Chihuahua as well underneath. America, Jimmy Moore, these signs, honestly, you send me are great. I did love this, mate. Bit of humour here. Underneath this car, after this bad parking, please don't reproduce in a free I bet you some people start doing that now. This one from Charlie in the Chocolate Factory. The last thing Charlie needed was a chocolate bar.
Comment.
Too much time on the hands. And Harry, this is stop being picked on at school is arguably your worst name. He was replying to the Daily Mail saying girl named IKEA had to change her name to stop being picked on at school. Very clever. A picture here of the worst ever colouring book. Yeah, awful.
Yeah.
And when you see police cars in front of the neighbour's house but don't want to seem nosy. And this guy is going to have some explaining to do if he gets a suntan.
No.
Definitely looks like fishnets. And when you ring Domino's and you order 2-foot garlic bread, this is what you get.
Yeah.
And this one, you're never going to eat it again, are you? Thank you, Paul. Next, you'll dip the carcass of the mother into the scrambled remains of her unborn children.
Oh,
No. God.
And if you've not seen it yet, here's Love Island Essex, sponsored by Greg's. And this is a novel way of covering up a patch in your bathroom, lads. My friend showed me how they fixed the water stain on the ceiling in their office.
that's
Quality.
Very good. I think we've all seen this car as well. Thank you, Stephen. When the car you drew with your red crayon when you were 5 pulls in for petrol next to you. And this was brilliant. This Brenda and Boyd from North Tyneside Council team. Just checking, is the garden bin collection back as normal? North Tyneside Council. Yes, Brenda, it is. Brenda then replies with a finger. Just checking, Brenda. Is that the emoji you wanted to send? It was meant to be a thumbs up, but I may have the wrong glasses on. Sorry, it was offensive. That's excellent, by the way. And those who like my singing,
council a finger, I bet.
it's crazy to think they built a city on just these 2 things. We built the city on rock and rolls and a customized tire fighter for the Star Wars fans out there. Brilliant. I feel like that. And another one from Jimmy, Tweet of the Week, the Imperial Walker. Excellent, that, for those people wanting to get around. And the Star Wars pizza, the Death Star, and Alderaan. Very good, Jimmy. This one from Donald, who's in the chat tonight. He says, I'm returning the glasses I bought for my husband last week. He's still not seeing things my way. And here is Dr. Pooh and the Turtles. Thank you, Gary. Another one from Edward. We know Steve can sing, but can he do accents? So we've got Alien and we've got Italian. And another singing one. When I get this feeling, I need actual ceiling. Very good. Like that one. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes.
And toes. Oh dear me.
Yeah, thank you for those. And this one from Tinsy. Come on, Steve, you know the song. The tide is high and I'm moving on. There we go. Thank you. Good picture of Debbie Harry as well. Thank you. Gary, thanks for this. I've never come this way before. It's the cobblestones, dear.
Yeah.
And the oldest computer was owned by Adam and Eve. It was an Apple with very limited memory, just one byte, and everything crashed.
Brilliant.
Coming to the business end of the tweets now, Steve. Another Amigos tweet of the week from Des. Built by Romans, 2,000 years old. Built by the council, 2 years old. Very
Quality.
Very true. This one as well. A ticket to hell has never been funnier. YMCA. And whenever I have to fill out a form that asks who to call in case of an emergency, I always put ambulance because no one in my family is going to answer a call from an unknown number.
So true.
So true for a lot of people, that. David, a good one for tweet of the week. My advice is eat more food from the ocean. And then we'll see what the kid's doing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we've all felt like doing this at times because nobody tells me what to do. Countdown from Stephen Kennedy. He says, me and about 2,000 others shouted arsewipe so loud at the telly that people 3 streets away could hear. And for the Amigos, a breathtaking view of the Milky Way seen from Mars. Very good, mate. Somebody was clearly bored. This one, Xavier's back again. He says, yesterday I was walking down the street holding my hands with my wife. I suddenly dropped a hand and grabbed my cell phone to take this picture. She hit me in my chest and wouldn't talk to me for the rest of the day. Last night she asked me, how could you? I said, how could I not? It's not every day you see a dog driving a car. Another tweet of the week from he says, I realised Captain America's suit doesn't have 50 stars. So he's actually Captain Puerto Rico. And Dougie farted on the bus this week, and 4 people turned around. He felt like he was on The Voice. And how did we block people in the 80s, lads? Well, this is how. Left the phone off the hook. Something more inappropriate from a shop. Latex scar wounds, 99 pence at Home Bargains.
Yeah.
If you insist.
And the top 3. Bargain-loving Brits. I won't name the hotel just yet, as I'm considering legal action, says Steve. But please be wary when booking hotels in Benidorm. My wife has just returned from a week-long hen party. She's got terrible burns on her elbows and knees due to raised tile next to the pool. The food has given her a sore backside, and the Wi-Fi was down, so she wasn't able to call or message me at all during her stay. Worse still, she's managed to catch crabs from a hotel towel. Absolutely disgraceful.
And the band believe it if you like.
Top 2. This one was on an Ayrshire page, buy and sell. Appearance is my sister has died. Size 14 pants, £2 a pair for new pair, £10 a pair for worn, unwashed, ideal for fetish, discount for more than 1 pair, can post discreetly.
Yeah, me.
And the winner this week, I love this, just the pictures alone. My sister asked me to watch her son yesterday, so I took him skydiving. It now makes sense why your sister doesn't want you near her house. Fantastic. If you've got a tweet of the week, follow us on Facebook, hit the like on our Facebook page, join the group, or at Steve Wraith on X, and we will feature them next week and take up a good chunk of the show, having a good old laugh. Okay, we're going to have to look ahead to the Brighton game. We're now into the show. So from our perspective, we're going to bring in the one and only. He's been waiting a while, but he was aware he was going to be waiting tonight. And it's a man who's in row. It has his old dancing. It is one and only. We're a man. Welcome back, Bonnie lad. You've had a bad old time. And our thoughts were with you, mate. But welcome back. Great to see you. And we've got a game this weekend, Bonnie lad.
We have, and thank you, Steve. Thanks for acknowledging. I have had a bad time, but then I've come back on, and Keith Patterson started looking at me. So just when you think things couldn't get any worse. Hello, Keith. All right, son.
I tell you something, like, you haven't been missed.
I know I haven't. I know I missed myself.
So like a rash, son. Everyone wants to get rid of you.
Joe.
Yes,
Joe.
mate.
Fanny.
Thank you. So before I start, I've got to do one thing, Steve, if you don't mind. I just need to do this. And you know who you are. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Right. Okay. So, right. On with the bookies then. We have got a game tomorrow. We play Brighton and Hove Albion at home. And even though there's nothing to separate us in the league, the bookies are going with home advantage. Newcastle are even money to win the game. Brighton are 5-2. And the draw is just under 3-1. As always, goals are really fancied whenever Newcastle United play these days. And 0-0 is 18-1. So that just proves that the bookies think there will be goals. Good to see Alexander Isak back on the anytime goal scorer list. He's up there with Anthony Gordon and Harvey Barnes as favourites to score in the game for us. Joe Linton is 9-2. Sandro Tonali is 11-2. And I'm still waiting for Big Dan Burn at the back post. You can have 9-1 if you think that'll happen. Welbeck, Rutter and Ferguson feature heavily for Brighton. And of course, Yankuba Minte is also just under 3-1 to score in the game. And of course, that's going to be inevitable, isn't it? 1-0 Newcastle, 11-1. 2-0 Newcastle, 12-1. And you are right, Steve. Stewie is back this weekend, and I'm sure he'll be on 14-1 for the 3-1 Penman. Ones each, 7-1, and twos each is 12-1. If we think it'll go wrong, you can get 14-1 for 1-0 Brighton and 20-1 for 2-0 Brighton. 13-8 if you think there'll be a penalty in the game. And just over 3-1 if you think the referee will produce a red card. There's 10 games in the Premier League this weekend. If you think there'll be more than one goal in each of those games, starting tomorrow dinner time all the way to Monday night, you can have around 5.5 to 6-1. But as we say every week, please look after your money and get it on Newcastle. I'm feeling quite confident this weekend.
Good stuff. Time for Toon Stato, and he's got a lot to say.
Hello there with the key stats before the home game against Brighton tomorrow. It's a Saturday 3 p.m. kickoff, and actually Eddie Howe has played so far 30 games in charge of Newcastle United on Saturday at 3 p.m. He has won 19, drawn 8, and lost only 2 games, both of them away from home to Luton last season and to Fulham in London this season. This means that Newcastle is unbeaten under Eddie Howe at St James's Park on a Saturday at 3 p.m. Actually, Newcastle is unbeaten at home in 11 consecutive Premier League games. And if they don't lose tomorrow, they can equal the same achievement from the end of 2022 and the first half of 2023, when they went 12 games without a defeat at St James's Park. Against Brighton, Newcastle is undefeated at home in the last 3 games, winning 2 and drawing only 1. But these 2 wins are the only wins in their 14 Premier League games against Brighton. Actually, the first 4 Premier League games against Brighton at St James's Park, Newcastle didn't even score a goal, drawing 2 0-0 games and losing the other 2. When it comes to players, Danny Welbeck from Brighton is involved in 5 goals this season in the Premier League, scoring 4 and assisting for 1, while Bruno Guimaraes from Newcastle is the most fouled player in the Premier League, drawing 27 fouls against himself, and also drawing the most yellow cards in the Premier League. Dan Burn scored his first Premier League goal for Newcastle against his old side, so let's see if he can repeat the feat tomorrow. However, lad.
Great stuff. Thank you, Andre, for that. So yes, Newcastle, 3 o'clock kickoff tomorrow, Keith, against Brighton. We heard from Eddie Howe today. A bit more upbeat this season on injuries than we were last season. We heard about Isaac trained all week. Toe is okay and will be available for selection. Wilson has trained all week, but they are being a little bit more careful with Wilson. No surprise there, the amount of time he's been out over the last 18 months. So one would imagine he may not feature tomorrow, but will feature sometime in the next couple of games. We also heard that Lewis Miley has been training again this week. Miley is again being treated with kid gloves. They don't want to rush him too far back, but the words from Eddie Howe where he looks like he's never been away, which sounds very positive, although he has got a lot of competition in that midfield area to try and get across. One would imagine the Carabao Cup might be a place for him to feature. We then had it confirmed that Kieran Trippier is going to be out for the next few weeks, he said. The reports of a hamstring injury were correct, so no Trippier, which means Livramento, I'm sure, will be shooed straight back in. And the other update we got today was the one I guess we've all been speculating on because of his social media post, and that's Sven Botman. Sven Botman, we were told, he was asked quite clearly, are these posts meaning that he's going to be back sooner rather than later? He said that we would probably not see him until December, but that is still way ahead of what we thought. We were expecting potentially January. But again, I would imagine he'd be treated with kid gloves as he's coming through. The only other thing of notice is we know that Joe Linton's one yellow card away from a suspension. At some point, he's going to get that, especially the way that he plays. And yeah, all the talk, quite rightly, as Mark Byers has pointed out, has been about Minte coming back, a player that never played for Newcastle, but has done quite well. And I highlighted a post earlier on, actually, from Ken Robinson. He says, I've got a friend, 50 years of Brighton season ticket holder. He said to me, don't worry about Minte. He's got pace and would be good if you remember to take the effing ball with him. He's been dog so far. So there we go. That's from Ken Robinson's mate, who's a Brighton fan. And yeah, I think we've all built Minte up. Maybe he's into something that he's not, but he's still one to watch tomorrow. And football's a quirky old thing. Players, no matter whether they've played for you or not, can come back to haunt you. So yeah, give us your overall assessment of this game tomorrow, Keith. What are you expecting?
First, I just want to say, great to see Joe Walker back. I haven't kept track of his struggles. I've been active on podcasts and things for quite a while, but it's just great to see him back, cracking lad, and just cheeses up just seeing there. Nobody can look so happy with that kind of face and carry it off for so long. But, thank you. But one other quick shout out, Terry Armstrong's just put a post out to say that he wants to thank John Allen. Despite his challenges, he's got Peter Beasley to send Terry Armstrong a message in his health struggles, and I think tough times, a lot of us, and people like Terry Armstrong, John Allen, thoughts go out here all the time. I'll see you tomorrow, John. And again, it just shows what Peter Beasley does behind the scenes, but never gets the recognition I think that he deserves. And I think he's always been a great servant of the Newcastle United Football Club. Tomorrow, I think it's important that the hype on Minte is tackled, and I would put a young player on him. I'd put somebody of his age and ilk who can run with him, because I think he does forget to take the ball with him, but I think he will become a good player, and I would never have sold him. That said, we should go and attack Brighton and not make the Minte thing be the crux of this game. Newcastle should go and then just smash them at home and get them beat. Personally, I think, as Joe's pointed out, a draw is a good bet, because it's that kind of game. It'll be tense, but I'm going for 2-1. And when I was listening to Joe, I didn't think he read their odds out, but I was thinking, I wonder what it is. The odds didn't seem that great. If Stu Penman's 3-1 is only 14-1.
17-2, Keith.
It's not great, is it? 8.5 to 1. It's not pants wet and stuff that if you can get 3 goals in the right order. But I just think if you're going to do anything, you've got to beat teams like Brighton. You've got to go at them. And Mitch is nodding. There's there's 250 lads in Saudi turning up for the match, and you want them to go at them, go at the throats, and these are clubs we should be wiping away. And the thing that frustrates us this year is that we did it against Man City, but we haven't done it against some ordinary teams. And I'm not saying for a minute Brighton ordinary. I'm just saying it's a team that should come away from Newcastle with nought. And I don't think a draw is a good result. But Stato's just said a good start. The We've never been beaten on a 3-click Saturday kickoff. Personally, I wish there was more of them. I think it's just a much better day when you go to the game and it kicks off at 3. So roll on tomorrow. And I'm being modest. I was one of these who'd not be saying 5-1 or 5-2, but I'm saying 2-1 tomorrow.
Okay. Mitch, over to you, mate. You've heard the Stato and you've heard the odds. What's your view on this game tomorrow, mate?
Well, first it was Stato on the toilet when he delivered that message.
I don't know where he was.
Wasn't it?
Where he was.
Anyway, probably only place he can get peace at the minute with the amount of beds running around his house. And actually tagging on to Peter, we've got Peter over with the Dubai Mags next weekend for the Chelsea game. So if anybody's over in the region, come and grab a ticket. They've given me the mic for hosting for the day, which is probably the worst decision anybody's ever made, ever. I've been promised to be on my best behaviour. I'm going to try very, very hard not to say a fanny at any stage, but there you go. We'll see. So yeah, really looking forward to it, and the fact that he's given us the time and said, look, I'm going to come out and we're going to do this and make a real event of it. It's going to be a fabulous weekend. Brighton, do you know what I'd love to see tomorrow? I'd love to see Young Hall tuck Minty into his back pocket with his car keys and then score a screamer from the edge of the area and just put it all to bed. Minty has never kicked the ball forward. Why people are getting upset about it? We've had articles run by so-called, people who go on about football stats. Football stats are still an anathema to me because football is not something that works with constant set plays like American football, like baseball, where the stats can work. It just, there's too many variables in football for that. People are talking about it not being a great deal. I'm sorry, it's a fantastic deal for somebody who never kicked the ball forward. But why so many people are absolutely attached to this thing, I don't know. And I would love to see Hall just put it to bed tomorrow. Took him in his back pocket with his keys, score a screamer from the edge of the area. One and done. Thank you very much. That'll be right. And Keith's absolutely right. Go show no fear. We're at home. We've got a packed house. It's a Saturday afternoon. We should make it a bear pit. It should be a horrible place for somebody like Brighton to come from the south coast, like we make all those bloody journeys everywhere else, all over the country. Let's fair play to them. If they've sold their end out, fantastic, because again, they've got a hell of a journey. At least Telly hasn't messed with it and give them a 12:30 start or a Friday night when they kind of get home, all that kind of shit that we put up with. Ian, that's the Stockholm Syndrome again. This is the mindset we have to lose if we are going to be the best in Europe, the best in the world. That mindset we've got to drop. And that might seem arrogant, and that might seem, a little bit cocky. But at the end of the day, if we remain parochial, we'll only ever be the best club in Newcastle. That's it. We've got to look beyond that. And tomorrow we've got to look at it as an opportunity, not a threat, an opportunity to make a statement against a team that gets regularly bigged up. And rightly so. You know what? They turn some fantastic results out every now and again. They've been exposed for what they are with shareholder loans and etc. I don't think they're as fantastically coached as everybody thinks. I think a lot of it is stats driven from ownership level, and that'll run out eventually because, again, I just genuinely believe that football is not a game you can ultimately always rely on stats on. There's always something that'll chuck a spanner in the works. How many of you had a 7-team actor that was nailed on to come in and Celtic have lost at home to, Wraith Rovers? And yet every week something like that happens. Every week, because that's football. And that's what we keep coming back for, isn't it? But at the same time, St James's Park needs to be a bear pit. Really does.
I agree.
And we got our role to play in that as fans in the ground and let the team feed off that a little bit.
Okay, have you got the dice?
I have got the dice. And the dice is with Keith at 2-1.
Get it.
Okay, and what about your prediction, Mitch?
I'm going to go with Stu as he's back. And he's going to have a bloody good day. I think he's already having a good day today as well, by the sounds of it. And I'm quite sure he raised a glass to Dave Carmen tomorrow. I'll go with Penman, 3-1.
3-1. Okay. Joe, what was your prediction that you gave? Was it 2-1?
Yeah, well, I said this last time I was on, didn't I? At the minute, I'd take 1-0. And I get we should be going at them. Completely agree with Pat. We have to. These are the teams we need to beat. But I've said that a few times this season, and we've struggled a little bit against some. They're a good side. They're an attacking side. They like to move the ball quick. They like to move the ball forward. But so do we. And if we've got Harvey Barnes and if we've got our centre forward back, that means Gordon goes back to where he's best, out wing. And we might get a nice, open, expansive game of football, which is kind of what I'm hoping for, because I've been a bit of a grumpy get this season, as you know, and I haven't been impressed with us at all, really, barring Man City, I suppose. So this is an opportunity. We've had a break. Hopefully the guys are rested. I'm not buying into the Minte thing. Totally agree with the lads. You know, so what? He never played for us. He would have played for us in 2.5 seasons' time, but he didn't, and we got a fortune for him. Whether it's Hall, whether it's Livramento, you know, they'll match him. They'll do what they do. They're very good players. Hall's had another good international break away with the England bands. So, yeah, why not? Nice to be back at St. James's. Hopefully it'll be 3 points. It will be an open game, but there's just something ringing in my head that says we'll win 1-0.
Sure.
Yeah, that was my prediction last night. 1-0.
Yes, that.
Have you got shoulder pads on?
Yeah. You keep falling out of me, brah.
You saying I'm wearing a bra, like.
Brilliant stuff. Steve, give us your views on the
I mean, I'm beginning to wonder which Brighton are going to turn up. Is it the Brighton of the first half of the last game against Spurs, or is it the Brighton of the second half? Are Newcastle United going to play like Tottenham did in the first half? Do we have a Newcastle United who can play like Tottenham didn't in the second half? You know, this is what football is all about. Brighton games have got some interesting memories for me. Me and George and yourself, Steve, we were lucky after a Brighton game to sit with Rafa, if you remember, in his little room, and with Chris Houghton, who was the Brighton manager at the time, and we had a real great conversation about the way the team had played on that particular game. So that was one memory, but the big memory of Brighton is that great 3-1 win we had at the end of May 1984. I just looked it up there because Mitch mentioned Peter Beardsley, and that game epitomised Peter Beardsley at his finest. The Keegan, Beardsley, Waddle, they were the 3 goal scorers. Peter involved all over the pitch. A game that I had to double check here because I thought I knew it, but I wasn't quite sure. There was 9 Englishmen on that pitch, a Northern Ireland international and a Republic of Ireland international. That was the Newcastle team. The rest were 9 Englishmen, including Kevin Corr in goal, the late Steve Carney and Glenn Roeder at the back, Kenny Wharton at left back. Obviously Keegan, Waddle and Beardsley. Keegan was down as playing in midfield. Waddle was down as playing in midfield, but I mean Waddle never played in midfield ever. And it was the last game, believe it or not, for Terry Mack, Kevin Keegan, and the man we always forget from that lineup, John Truick. How could we forget John Truick? Dear me, his last ever game for Newcastle, the 3-1 win. I thought I'd throw that in, a little bit of history, because I'm just excited about the game tomorrow. And let's face it, there are people who have visited Newcastle on stag do's more times than Minte has even been in Newcastle. So that's the sort of, forget about him. He doesn't exist as far as we are concerned. Never wore a black and white shirt. Probably never will. But I'm going to go with a penman as well, because I'll be with it tomorrow at the match. And it's written in the stars when Stewie's here that we all put 3-1 on, and we end up getting nowhere near that.
Okay, George, over to you, mate. What's your views on this game? I mean, it's a tricky one at times. You know, Brighton have had a bit of a mixed bag away from home. They've had a draw against Arsenal. They beat Everton, and they got beaten off Chelsea.
I can't have me son stealing the show, so I'll start with Fanny. So here we go. It'll be 4-0. It'll be 4-0, and I just have a feeling that Brighton will get the shellacking that Everton should have had last Saturday, because it was a big score. It should have been the one at Everton. So I think Brighton will collect that tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to it. I agree with you. Minty, things past and gone. Yes, he's had some good games to watch on television, but at the end of the day, we've got to think about us. And we've had a fantastic international week. The players that all played have actually done exceptionally well. The lads in under 23s, you know, the man of the match, the only downside was Elliot Anderson. And then under 18s, we had two stars. It would just been that sort of week. Even with goalkeeper, Odysseus Vlachodimos, and he played well for Greece against Ireland. And, he showed why he's a good goalkeeper. So it's not been a bad week. So, but I'm Mr. Optimistic, and I'm definitely looking forward to a shellacking for Brighton.
It's known as a Mitchellism, says Dunno. Kev says, "Boy, George is all right. You can eat 5 shredded wheat. Brilliant, George." A new section says, "Mick, Steve, George swears."
Can you imagine if somebody walks in and they're just like kids are walking past the screen, the father's watching this program, and it's got tits, funny, awful.
It's a good job this is an over 18 show, and apologies to anyone watching for George's terrible turn in language. It's completely inappropriate, George. Only your son can do that. Okay, we are going to finish off with a two lookalike. As soon as Tom Dixon knew keeper's coming on, he sent us this. One
in the middle.
I just find it strange how Tom actually finds these dogs that actually look like Steve Hasty. It's amazing.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is. Thank you, Tom, for that. And this one was from Stephen Kent, from Steve Middlemiss. He said, "Steve Hasty on a break in Scotland."
It's just anything now, isn't it? You know.
Apparently that's a haggis eating a Greg's.
And a pop.
Which is brilliant. Yeah. Two lookalike as well. Steve Hasty in the bottom there on the right. And John Bon Jovi now looks like the 5th Golden Girl. Thank you for that, Gary. That's uncanny. I think we've had that a couple of times, but it's a new photo, so we do feature them. Tom Dixon then turned his attention to these: Andy Carroll and Ed Screen.
Yeah.
Wow. Similar haircuts. Chucky and Donald Trump.
Brilliant.
That's a bit harsh on Chucky, isn't it?
From Jimmy Moore. And Neil Mitchell sent us this one. A musical lookalike, Freddie Mercury there in the background. Very good. Tom Dixon, Chikorito, and Bruno Mars. That's uncanny.
Brilliant.
That's a really good one. And another one from Tom. Paul Shaw Clark. Paul Shaw and Clark Kent lookalike, which is
Mag. I thought it was Mag.
Very good, Tom. And his last one, Nico Cranshaw and Killy the Dwarf from The Hobbit. We did get a Keith Patterson one when he was on the show a couple of weeks ago, and this was from Jason. Terry Stone and Keith Patterson, the actor. I think you take that, Keith. You take that.
All my lookalikes are famous actors and good looking.
And bold. Yeah, exactly. And This one was from Andrew. Tuttle and helmet from Afidazine Pet.
That's
Very
good.
good. Yeah. Top 2 this week. This one from a Facebook group that we have on NUFC Matters. David Bourne and Bill Murray. Pretty good, that. I don't remember who sent that, but thank you for that. The winner this week's a new person who has posted us a lookalike, and it was on X this week. Posh Spice and Cliff Richard.
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
Prime 61. That is excellent. Well done. So, with a start like that, you've got a lot to live up to. Thank you so much for sending them in. If you want to send them in, don't forget that we are on Facebook. There's a Facebook page and a Facebook group. All you need to do is like the page, and you need to join the group, and that's it. Send your lookalikes on there, and also follow me at Steve Wraith on X, and we will feature them if we can. Okay, we'll finish up with a little bit of Elliot. Elliot, this week I've started taking engraving lessons. There's still so much to learn. We've only just scratched the surface. Well done, Elliot. Good luck with that new career. Keith, thank you for coming on. You've explained a lot to the fan base again. Thanks to everybody on NUFC Matters. Thanks to Mitch, to Burra Mag, welcome back. Thanks to Steve, and thanks to George, the fanny man. We will see you all tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock, three's a crowd. And back with the professionals, 10 o'clock on Sunday morning, because Stu wants to do it early to get out on the drink. Enjoy the game tomorrow, and we will see you in the morning. Take care, lads.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
Everybody, bye.